My name is Markus Blatz. I'm currently chairperson of the Department of Preventive and Restorative Sciences, and that is at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Originally, I grew up in Germany and spent a long time there. I went to dental school in Germany, Freiburg. Then, after spending dental school there, I was faculty member in the Department of Prosthodontics for 6-7 years. And then I moved to the US almost 14 years ago and spent some time at LSU in New Orleans. And in that position there, we conducted a good amount of research. And even though I expected to be there for only 2 or 3 years, it turned out to be 5 or 6 years overall. And after that, I decided to move to the Northeast, and we moved to Philadelphia, joined the University of Pennsylvania, where I'm now chairing this department. And that department is actually a combination of very different, in traditional schools, very different departments, such as operative dentistry, general dentistry, prosthodontics, pretty much everything under one helm. And the good thing about this is, though, that I get a lot of insight in the different aspects of restorative dentistry, both from a prosthodontic standpoint and also from an operative standpoint. And also, we have a large number of part-time faculty. And it gives me also a good view into what's happening in the practices right now. Digital technology helps us in many different ways. Once we are able to use materials that we would not be able to use without digital technology, because we can then go beyond the typical firing and cast materials. We can use high-strength ceramics, for example, that are fabricated quite precisely with digital technology. And that's another aspect where CAD/CAM plays a big role. We can be extremely precise with these types of restorations. And also, the whole treatment planning aspect goes more and more into digital technology. And we're conducting a good number of investigations now where we look at aesthetic parameters and how we can implement them from a treatment planning standpoint, but not just through conventional wax ups and setups, but on the computer screen, and on the computer screen then to design a restoration that will later not only fit well, but also be exactly produced for that specific needs of that patient. What is unique about CAD/CAM technology in dentistry as compared to other industries like manufacturing and the furniture or car industry is actually that every tooth is unique, and also every patient requires different types of design from a functional and from an aesthetic standpoint. And this is why we cannot just simply make one mold for everyone. And this is why maybe big manufacturing is not caught onto the CAD/CAM technology for dentists yet, because every tooth requires a completely different design. And every patient may need different types of materials. And when we talk about wax ups, we still need wax up in some instances, specifically when we talk about very large restorations. However, most of these wax up procedures are now done on the computer screen. And the nice thing about this is we can then design a certain outline, and then we have access to all the different materials. And it doesn't matter if it's zirconia or lithium disilicate or a methyl methacrylate material. We have access to all these materials and can then mill or produce them based on that virtual wax up that we have done. And the good thing about this is, first of all, I can fabricate a provisional restoration out of methyl methacrylate, for example, and then really look at all the parameters that are important from an aesthetic and a functional standpoint before then transfer that to ultimately the final restoration, and then using the material that for that specific incident and that specific patient is the best. Most of the CAD/CAM systems that we are using, and we have started or founded a CAD/CAM ceramic center at UPenn, where I brought a dental technician, master dental technician from Germany to direct that center. And we have access to a variety of different CAD/CAM systems there. Most of the systems that we're using today are actually laboratory-based systems. And in that center, again, we have different systems, all the scanners, different types of milling units, so we can really go through all the procedures from A to Z. There's a lot of discussion right now about zirconia and other high-strength ceramics, and honestly, I think we're still on our way to finding some of the ideal materials. The problem that has occurred was actually that some people, manufacturers, always try to find and sell us the only one material that can do everything. Unfortunately, that's not existent. I believe that there is a place for many of the materials that we're actually looking at, from metal alloys to high-strength ceramics to silica-based ceramics. I believe that in all of these materials have their advantage and disadvantage in a certain circumstance. Zirconia is a very, I would say, intriguing material because it has a very high strength. And we know there are some people at least report that there were some problems concerning the veneering porcelain and the interface, which is not as simple to achieve as it is for a PFM type of restoration. So the big push right now is to go towards full zirconia type of restorations as well. And they've become extremely popular. Unfortunately, though, there is not a lot of scientific evidence on the use of these materials at this point in time. And this, of course, is what our goal has to be, to produce that kind of information, to make sure that when we use this type of materials, that we have also the evidence to back it up and say this is something that has a longevity in the clinical practice to be used there. Again, zirconia has multiple advantages. It's not the only material, and it's not the material for everything. And I believe that that's what has gotten us into trouble when in the beginning everyone said, oh, zirconia is the white steel, it can do everything like a metal alloy. But based on the material properties, it cannot. And maybe it shouldn't. And so I think we have to be sure that we don't use those materials beyond their physical and optical limitations. And if we do that smartly, I think we can be very successful with either of those materials. Of course, the goal would be to maybe at one point in time just do a face scan, take an intra-oral scan, and then really have the computer design a perfectly fitting, perfectly designed, aesthetic, best materials type of restoration for that specific patient. We're not there yet. The intra-oral scanning is a very intriguing step in the right direction, though. At this point in time, they're mostly limited to single units or very short bridges. Hopefully in the future, we will be able to use intra-oral scanning devices for many more applications. I can see right now, though, when I also look at the use in our clinics, in our university, that there's still many people somewhat hesitant to use it because they're so used to their conventional impression techniques. But the more we understand the benefits for really well-fitting type of restorations, and also once you get over that learning hump to use a scanning device like this, and once we understand these benefits, I think the use in the future will be much greater for intraoral scanning devices as well. I have to say, I gave up being judgmental a long time ago, otherwise I wouldn't be here anymore. So, of course there are differences in the care, but specifically from an aesthetic standpoint, that's just a fact. I mean, what you can see that in Europe, for example, people would be much more willing to match a single crown to the existing teeth, no matter how old they are. And dental technicians, they love to characterize their crowns to make an age-appropriate type of appearance. In the US, it's a little different. If I sell a crown that looks like an old tooth, people would say, you know what, doctor, I want a new crown. I don't want to have an old tooth. So people are much more willing to also look at the other dentition that's surrounding, for example, a single crown and say, listen, maybe do some veneers or some bleaching or whatever, to start and create and design a new smile. That's certainly a difference that I see between the two cultures. I spent hopefully as much time as I can with my family, 4 children, between the ages 5 and 13 now. And what we do together quite a bit, we ride bicycles, like skiing, and surfing is actually my favorite sport.